Oops, here's Alicia. Okay, hi, everybody. In the interest of time, and now that we've lost time because of technical issues, we're going to move right into Erin's presentation. So it is my pleasure to introduce Erin Jonason. Erin is an oncology counselor at ProHealth here in Wisconsin. And tonight he's going to share his expertise and his understanding as it relates to the many emotions that are involved with mentoring. Erin, all yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Judy. I'm gonna bring up that PowerPoint right away, if that's okay. I guess I could say hello real quick first while my face is nice and big on your screens there. But yeah, my name's Erin, like Judy told you, still Erin. And I've been here in this role at ProHealth for a few years. I guess almost 4 years. I used to work for Stillwaters. If you had any contact with them or familiarity with them, they were an outside oncology support service counseling center in Pewaukee, Waukesha County area. And then when they dissolved a few years ago, I came into this role that I'm in now, still offering a similar service, counseling support to patients and family members throughout any phase of survivorship.
Survivorship.
All right.
Please, if you would please mute your audio. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat room and then we'll go through them at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Fantastic. Oh, there we go. There's the share. Let me do that real quick. All right. So what you all are doing in terms of supporting other people who are going through a diagnosis, having gone through your own diagnosis and cancer experience, I think takes a tremendous amount of heart, yes, compassion, yes, but also work, and it takes its emotional toll, I think, and we need to be sure we're attending to our own needs here as you so adequately and lovingly support other people. It's so important to offer ourselves that same kind of attention and care. The old put your oxygen mask on first, I guess. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, supporting you while you support others, because without supporting you, you're not going to be able to support others. So, and kind of what to do with some of the feelings, the emotions, the challenges that come with being in the mentor role that you're in. I'm a big quote person, too much so, admittedly, and poems and readings and things like that. So, but the quote I put on here, the best thing to hold on to in life is each other. Audrey Hepburn. I love that one. And that will be my number one piece of advice throughout all of this, I think. And so often is when I'm working with people, is to turn towards each other, especially when things are challenging and scary. Turn towards each other, lean on each other, especially when there are people who can relate to your experience, people who have been there, people who are maybe your fellow mentors. All right, let's see here. There we go. Oh, there's me. I used to have a show on PBS. No, not really. I had a lot of time on my hands apparently, and when I did a survivorship presentation on creative expression recently, I put my face over Bob Ross's face. So I just threw those pictures in for you, for your entertainment, and for you to kind of wonder what the heck you just got yourself into. But I'll share my contact information again at the end. Please don't hesitate to reach out, because you might want some of the resources I cover tonight, or you might be interested in the counseling service here. I don't want to spend too much time giving a commercial for that, but it is a free service offered to anybody who's been touched by a diagnosis. Touched is the wrong choice of words there, but impacted by a diagnosis. That's really the only requirement, and we've been able to keep it that way for these last few years, and hopefully will as long as possible. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We've got a couple support groups here. We've got another round of that survivorship program I referred to coming up, similar to what we're doing here, where we'll have experts on various different topics. So if that's something you're interested in, check out ProHealth Care's classes and events page. So what I'd like to do here real quick is just walk backwards kind of. So kind of start with maybe what we're trying to avoid. And I think one of the things that hopefully you haven't experienced, but maybe you have, is this concept of compassion fatigue. And you may, I'm sure you've also heard of burnout, similar, but a little different. Compassion fatigue usually comes before burnout, but compassion fatigue is something that can impact anybody who's in that role where you are empathetic, generous, if you've got that caring nature about you, where you're really kind of able to put yourself in that other person's shoes, maybe especially because you can personally relate to some of those things, that makes you so much more vulnerable for compassion fatigue. And having said that, makes it so much more important that you attend to your own needs, your own self-care.
Okay, I got it. I got it.
All right.
You want to come and see it?
We're learning more and more about trauma. I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but we're learning more and more that women, especially middle-aged women going through a breast cancer diagnosis, are susceptible to trauma. We know that cancer-related PTSD is a thing now, a diagnosable thing in the DSM, which is the manual we use as mental health therapists to diagnose mental health conditions. So anxiety, depression, people can now be diagnosed with cancer-related PTSD. And it's very similar to other forms of trauma, in that when you're going through a diagnosis, you maybe hunker down, you go into survival mode, you're not doing a lot of processing emotionally because you want to live, you fear for your life. And so you do what you have to do to get through it. And then as you kind of reemerge, hopefully physically, and heal physically, often that's when the emotional work is just beginning. That's often when the feelings are just starting to arise. Meanwhile, you have the expectation from everyone else around you to go on and, live your life. What's the problem? You pick up where you left off. Things are great. And you're just starting to kind of wrap your head around what the heck just happened. And how has this changed me, or what does this mean now? And you've got the triggers, you've got maybe the smells or the sights or the places or the commercials, the things that really can trigger that fight or flight response. So if that rings a bell with any of you, I'd encourage you to connect with me or connect with someone else to kind of help you process some of that, whether or not it's a legitimate full-blown trauma or PTSD. It's really important that you unpack some of your own experiences, and if you haven't already done so, and do that in a safe place. And again, I don't want to go too far into the weeds here with some of this stuff. But the difference between compassion fatigue and stress, because I think a lot of times people think that really we're just talking about extreme stress, but the two are very different. So if we're looking at compassion fatigue, really what to be aware of is that you disengage, you almost go internal, as opposed to stress. If we're experiencing stress, we're kind of all over the place, we're over engaged, we're trying to do too much. Let's see, the damage with compassion fatigue is usually emotional, whereas stress, we primarily see that in the body. With stress, the emotions are over the top. With compassion fatigue, the emotions are more blunted, and there's just that helplessness, that loss of energy. And I'm putting this out there not because I want anyone to self-diagnose or overthink some of these things, but just to kind of be aware, because this is something that kind of happens over time and can really sneak up on us if we're not aware of it, being in the roles that you're in. So a lot of times we'll see this manifestation of compassion fatigue show itself through depression and different kinds of addictive behaviors, difficulties in relationships. Those are kind of the more common places we see it. All right. Really, I was trying to think of like, all right, what's how to capture what the focus is tonight, because I feel like there's so many different angles and areas here, but I think if we had to kind of hang our hat on one thing that is going to help you attend to your feelings, whether that's expressing them or taking care of them, validating them, I think at the ground level, it kind of has to start with reducing our stress. A lot of these things we know, and I know you've heard, when it just comes to eating well, remaining active, getting outside, getting good sleep. The other one I just want to be sure to mention is the counseling, because I think there has been that stigma in the past that you have to be broken, you have to be mentally ill, you have to be seriously depressed or have anxiety to go see a therapist, and I really just don't believe in that. I mean, unfortunately, sometimes that is the case if you're working with insurance companies or something, you need that diagnosis, but I think so much value can come from kind of getting that different perspective. You're in hopefully a warm, safe environment where it's about you, where it's about helping you grow, and it's with a neutral third party, someone who's, we might have wonderful family and friends in our lives, but just because of the relationship they have with us, there's some built-in bias there. So to have kind of that neutral third party where you don't have to worry about that, or you don't have to worry about what that person, might think if I say this, you can really do it unfiltered. So again, whether that's with me or with someone else, I would strongly encourage you to have someone like that in your life, even if it's not even if it's not a therapist, someone who's kind of in that realm, like a priest or a coach or a teacher, a mentor. I've got my own therapist I see once a month. So, I mean, and that's the whole, like, putting your oxygen mask on first. I like that quote there. It's, again, I said I'm a quote person. Slowly, you may have transformed from a helper to one in need of help. it's important to talk about this, to identify the wounds you carry. And I love that quote. It speaks to kind of how this compassion fatigue, stress, burnout, whatever we want to call it, how it can kind of sneak up on us, and how it's so important to acknowledge our own wounds, our own hurt, and to attend to those. It's so important to honor your story. And it's so important to do that in a way that is meaningful and effective for you. That's what I mean by in your voice, and in a platform that's meaningful to you, to an audience that will receive it and accept it. And I think a lot of you are doing it already just by being in the roles that you're in here. With ABCD, you're in that accepting, supportive, often understanding audience, because they've gone through something similar. But it's important to not make yourself feel like you have to tell that story in a certain way, or package it in a certain way, or you have to be that, oh, I put those little words down there, like the survivor. You don't have to go do the walks and wave that survivor flag, or call yourself a survivor, or call yourself a warrior, or always be strong. Giving yourself permission to tell it in your own way, and not try to make it anything other than you. Because there's no right or wrong to your story. It's your story. How could it be right or wrong? So whether it's writing it, telling other people about it, reading about others, however you decide to do that, and take what you've gone through in terms of your diagnosis and use that moving forward, doing it in a way that's meaningful for you. I think that's so important. And like I said, I think a lot of you are probably doing that just by being a part of ABCD. Again, going back to this idea of just kind of reducing our stress, managing our emotions. As compassionate people, this again is as giving, caring people, this is something that we often can struggle with. Being able to say no, clarifying and maintaining our boundaries, our own set of standards. And then that last one there, nurturing relationships. And again, that's what I hope you're doing with ABCD. And if there's room to do that more, either within ABCD or outside of there with groups or other things to get involved with, exchanging your feelings, finding that courage to be vulnerable. Because it takes a lot of courage to ask for help. It takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable, and doing that with people who will validate it, embrace it, maybe even relate to your feelings, and again, not try to put you in that position where where they're shooting on you. You should feel this way, or you should do that. They're trying to explain it. They're trying to point out the silver lining. They're trying to, well, have you tried that? They're just going to be there to validate it and provide that warm, nurturing presence. I wanted to be sure to mention meditation and mindfulness. I'm sure you're all familiar. I'm sure many of you have tried it and probably do it fairly regularly. And this is something I do a lot with people, and something, again, I can give you some resources on if you're interested in it. I would encourage you to at least give it a shot. A lot of times I hear, and I was one of them, I hear people say, my mind wanders too much or I can't focus. That's really not the goal, at least of kind of the basic mindfulness meditation. It's when we think of mindfulness meditation, we're just trying to gain awareness, build awareness, and not be so reactive. So just taking the thoughts, for example, the goal there isn't to stop the thoughts or slow them down. It's to bring awareness to them and to maybe not attach ourselves to them, maybe find control in how we respond to them and find power in that we can control how we respond to them, that we're not our thoughts, that we don't have to believe everything we think. Balance is the app I've been using most recently for meditation and mindfulness. Right now, you can get a full year of access membership to that app. I don't have any relationship. I'm not getting any kickbacks, just so you know. But it was something they started with the pandemic, and they've, I just looked today, and you can still get a full year free. So go ahead and sign up for the full year if you want. Just cancel right away so you don't get auto billed in like a year, the $70 or whatever it is. But I really like Balance because it tries to like personalize your meditation, your mindfulness, and it starts small because really we only need about 5 or 10 minutes a day. So that's where it starts you at, just 5 minutes a day of some kind of basic breath awareness, but then kind of gets to what you would like to focus on. So it's good. I'd encourage you to try it. But the basic benefits of meditation and mindfulness, I think we're, again, pretty well aware of, but it's going to help a lot with stress management, sleep, anxiety and depression, focus, pain, anger. And we're learning more and more and more about the impact, the positive impact that meditation and mindfulness can have on our bodies, on our brains, on our immune systems. It's pretty remarkable. So again, I don't want you to, I hope you don't just hear those words, meditation and mindfulness, and just kind of tune them out and say, yeah, that's not for me. I can't do that. Because again, mindfulness meditation, it can be a simple, accessible thing. And again, mindfulness, we're just going for awareness, or meditation, if we're thinking of relaxing ourselves, it can really be as simple as taking a few deep breaths before we go into a stressful situation, before you get on that phone call with that new mentee, doing some of these exercises. I like the figure 8 because you can do that on your leg without anybody noticing it. At least that's how I'll do it sometimes when I'm in meetings and I want to throw something at somebody. No, I'm just kidding. That never happens. But so you're basically like breathing in as you do half of the figure 8 and breathing out as you do the other half of the figure 8. Breathing in. You could even do this. Sometimes I even do this when I'm on the phone with somebody, and it's maybe I can feel myself emotionally getting tense. Just taking that time to make that figure 8 on my leg, or the triangle breaths. We breathe in for 3 seconds, 1, 2, 3, hold for 3 seconds, 1, 2, 3, and breathe out for 3 seconds. And when you take these breaths, and you can do this right now, if you want, ideally, we want to be taking belly breaths. So you don't want to feel a lot of movement in the chest. You want to feel the movements, the rise and the fall in your abdomen. So if you're in a place to do that, you can put your hand there, or you can even look down. A lot of times that can help if you're just starting out to see that natural, gentle rise and fall in your stomach. And it doesn't have to be anything long or big or profound. It can just be 3 or 4 deep breaths. When you feel yourself becoming emotionally tense, or maybe after a phone call, maybe you've been on the phone and it's been a really emotional call. Before you move on to that next thing, stopping there a minute and taking some breaths. Another one I really like is this 5 senses activity. So, and this can help us ground ourselves in the moment, and help us feel more secure and in control. So with the 5 senses, what you're doing is you're just going through the 5 senses very intentionally. And you can do 5 things you see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things like it says. But honestly, when I do it, I just do 1 of each. But you're trying to notice something that you wouldn't normally notice, like the pattern on the floor, feeling something like the surface beneath you or the fabric against your skin, hearing something that you wouldn't normally notice in the distance, something you can smell, something you can taste. Really just intentionally walking through the senses, because that's bringing us into the present moment. That's grounding us, that's helping us feel safe and secure. There's a lot of little acronyms out there. STOP is one that I'll keep on hand for people. I've got a little handout that kind of explains that, but I think that's a good one to keep in mind when you're going into like that phone call or a meeting that might be stressful or something like that. Stopping, taking a few breaths, observing, and then proceeding. Sorry, I'm just looking here. I don't want to jump around too much, but I want to be kind of aware of the time too. It's just kind of like a buffet, I guess. Like you're getting a little taste of a lot of different things, and then you can decide if you want to go get more of that or never eat it again. Self-compassion. I don't know if you've heard anything about self-compassion, but it's this growing, Dr. Kristen Neff is her name. And if you go on her website, she has some fantastic self-compassion exercises. And they're learning more and more about how self-compassion can help a lot with some of the same things that meditation and mindfulness help with, when it comes to the trauma, the anxiety, the focus, the presence, the awareness. One of the big things that they found self-compassion can help with is greater emotional resilience. And that's why self-compassion has kind of spoken to me, because it's, boy, when we're dealing with the types of things that all of you are dealing with in your mentoring, we need some emotional resilience and tools under our belts. I love this quote. I think one of the things that naturally comes with being a caregiver, this isn't the quote, one of the things that naturally comes with being a caregiver seems to be kind of that like self-critical voice. We're hard on ourselves. We often treat everybody else so well, and then we're not always that kind to ourselves. And self-compassion is another one of those things that I think is just kind of ground level necessary in our self-care. So sometimes when I'm working with people, I'll have them read this to themselves at the end of the day with some deep breaths. And it says, speak quietly to yourself and promise there will be better days. Whisper gently to yourself and provide assurance that you really are extending your best effort. Console your bruised and tender spirit with reminders of many other successes. Offer comfort in practical and tangible ways, as if you were encouraging your dearest friend. Recognize that on certain days, the greatest grace is that the day is over and you get to close your eyes. Tomorrow comes more brightly. One of the tools or tricks with self-compassion, if you notice that you're not, if you notice that you're being hard on yourself, if you can stop, pause, ask yourself, what would I tell a good friend if he or she was going through this? Or what would a good friend tell me going through this? So another tool that I use sometimes is up on the screen right now, this self-care wheel. And again, this is something I'd be glad to share with you, but basically it's breaking down these kind of 6 different aspects of you, of self: your physical, your psychological, your emotional, spiritual, personal, and professional. And basically what this tool is doing is causing you to intentionally look at each of these areas and notice if any of them are lacking. Notice if you want to bolster any of them, or maybe don't have anything in your psychological or professional self, and then think about, all right, what can I put in there? And then this is the other handout. Not sure why there's a deer playing the banjo there, but that's probably part of the deer's self-care, I'm guessing. But there's there's just examples in here of what you could put in for each one. Again, things I'd be happy to share with you. Yeah, I just sticking real quick with that theme of self-compassion. I love these 3 touchstones of showing up, which come from this book I'd highly recommend called "There Is No Good Card for This" by Emily McDowell. And she's got a line of greeting cards as well that really speak to just kind of telling it like it is, and really geared towards like going through cancer diagnosis, for example, and kind of poking fun at some of the things that people tend to say in those kinds of situations, but really good stuff. So in her book, she talks about the 3 touchstones of showing up. Your kindness is your credential, listening speaks volumes, and small gestures make a big difference. I guess I put this in here because I wanted to remind you that you've already got what it takes, just by being you, just by being in that mentoring position, just by being here this evening. Your kindness, who you are, is your credential. And I'm sure a lot of you have already realized that sometimes we try too hard to say the right thing or to do the right thing, or to find the perfect words. And really, so often all that person needs is just us. We've already got it. Just in who you are. I wanted to say thank you for doing what you're doing. It says, for some people, volunteering is about giving, but for the likes of you, it is a way of living. Thank you. And it's not just volunteering your time, it's volunteering yourself, it's volunteering your experience. And I always say to people, that's like, this is the number one thing I could recommend to anybody going through a diagnosis, family member, any aspect of survivorship, is connecting with other people who have been there, who get it. It's such an invaluable level of, it's a whole different level of support and empathy So I feel so passionately about these types of services like ABCD and what you offer. It's something I can't offer. And it's so invaluable, the comfort and the guidance and the way you light the path for people who are just maybe just starting out on it or are somewhere on it. The way you can shed a little bit of light on that is just amazing. So thank you. Told you I'm a quote person. I'm going to read two things here. I'm going to read what's on the screen first. Wherever you go, there you are. Your emptiness goes with you. Maddening. Things that help: writing, reading, water, walks, forgiving myself every other minute, practicing easy yoga, taking deep breaths, and petting my dogs. These things don't fill me completely, but they remind me that it is not my job to fill myself. It's just my job to notice my emptiness and find graceful ways to live as a broken, unfilled human. If there's a silver lining in the emptiness, here it is. The unfillable is what brings people together. I've never made a friend by bragging about my strengths, but I've made countless by sharing my weakness and my emptiness. And then one more I'll read to you here. And this is from Jan Richardson. She's another author, writer. And she writes these blessings sometimes, and I really like them. And this is called The Blessing You Should Not Tell Me. And it says, do not tell me there will be a blessing in the breaking, that it will ever be a grace to wake into this life so altered, this world so without. Do not tell me of the blessing that will come in the absence. Do not tell me that what does not kill me will make me strong, or that God will not send me more than I can bear. Do not tell me this will make me more compassionate, more loving, more holy. Do not tell me this will make me more grateful for what I had. Do not tell me I was lucky. Do not even tell me there will be a blessing. Give me instead the blessing of breathing with me. Give me instead the blessing of sitting with me when you cannot think of what to say. And I picked that out because I think you get that. You understand that. That's going back to that whole not trying too hard. Realizing that you are enough. You are more than enough. And thank you for so selflessly offering yourself in that way. So at that, I'll, do I have any more slides here? Oh, I do. There's another one of me and Bob Ross. And my contact information. Like I said, please don't hesitate to reach out. Should I hit stop share?